So let us go about something called Pythagorean triplets, which you have already discussed in class 8. So let me recall that, and then I'll be moving further. Suppose say 3, 4, 5. Now 3, 4, 5 is called a Pythagorean triplet because the sum of squares of these two numbers will give you the square of the larger number. That is, if you say 3 square is 9 and 4 square is 16. Now add upon 3 square plus 4 square is equal to 9 plus 16, which is 25. 25 is same as 5 square. Now such kind of numbers, such kind of triplets where the sum of squares of two numbers will give you the square of the third number, we call such kind of numbers as Pythagorean triplets. For say 6, 8, 10. Now 6 square is 36, 8 square is 64. Now add upon these two squares, 6 square plus 8 square, 36 plus 64, which will give you 100, and 100 is 10 square. Therefore I can say that 6, 8, 10 are Pythagorean triplets. Like the same, you can also have say 12 square. 12 square is how much? 144. 5 square is 25. Now add upon 12 square plus 5 square, 144 plus 25. 144 plus 25 is 169. 169 is same as 13 square. Therefore I can conclude that 12, 5, 13 are your Pythagorean triplets. Now let us discuss something more than what we have discussed in the previous class. Now these are your Pythagorean triplets: 3, 4, 5, then 6, 8, 10, 12, 5, 13. Now whenever you draw a triangle or whenever you construct a triangle using these three sides or those Pythagorean triplets as the sides of the triangle, then you will always arrive at a right angle triangle. That is, if you draw a triangle using 3, 4, 5, you will always arrive at a right angle triangle where the side opposite to the right angle, which we call it as hypotenuse, will be the largest side. So that will be 5 if you are drawing a triangle using this Pythagorean triplet, and the rest two can be anything. So it can be 3, it can be 4, it can be 3, it can be 4. Like the same here also, when you draw a triangle using these three measurements, then you will always arrive at a right angle triangle, and the side which is opposite to the right angle is your largest side, and that will be your 10, and that largest side is called your hypotenuse. That largest side is called your hypotenuse. This one, say this is 6, this is 6. So likewise, whenever you are given a Pythagorean triplet, you can draw a triangle, and that triangle will always be a right angle triangle, and the largest side will be the side opposite to the right angle. And the converse is also true. That is, if you draw a right angle triangle, then the measure of the sides will always be Pythagorean triplets. That is, suppose say you have drawn a triangle, say with some lengths A, B, C, then we can say that all A, B, C becomes the Pythagorean triplets. In other words, the square of the largest number is equal to sum of the squares of the other two. That is, I can say that here this is your right angle, therefore the side opposite to the right angle is the largest, and C is the largest. Therefore the square of the largest is equal to sum of the squares of the other two. In the previous case, what we have done is we have taken a Pythagorean triplet, and we have we have constructed a triangle, and we have said that the largest side will be the side opposite to the right angle. Now we are doing the reverse case. We are drawing a right angle triangle, and we are saying that those sides will satisfy this. That is, the square of the largest side is equal to sum of the squares of the other two sides, which means that they forms a Pythagorean triplet. That is, here we can see that A, B, C forms a Pythagorean triplet. That is what I can conclude on this. First, suppose you are constructing a right angle triangle. Say this is your right angle triangle. Say this side is 1 unit, this side is 1 unit, and you have constructed with some unknown number x. Say the third side is some x. Since you have constructed a right angle triangle, I can say that these three numbers are Pythagorean triplets because they are the sides of a right angle triangle. Hence, I can conclude that they are Pythagorean triplets. Since they are Pythagorean triplets, I can write the largest side square is equal to sum of the squares of the other two sets. That is 1 square plus 1 square. Now this is x square is equal to 1 square is 1, 1 square is 1, 1 plus 1 is 2. So x square is equal to 2. Now x square is equal to 2, what is x called? X square is equal to 2, what is x called? Which we have discussed in square roots and cube roots. Now x is called the square root of 2 and we represent this x as root 2. In other words, this x is equal to root 2, which means that this length is equivalent to root 2. Now what I'll try to do is, I'll try to mark this length on the number line. That is what I am trying to do. Say, this is your number line. I am choosing a point here and I am assigning this point to a number 0. Now what I am trying to do is, I am trying to mark this length on this number line. So, say this is somewhat of this kind and I am taking the same length on this somewhere over here. Now this is your root 2. Now I have chosen this point. From this point to this point, the length is same as this. So that is the reason I have assigned this point as root 2, which means that this length is root 2. That is, for suppose say you have a number line. This is 0. This is some 2. We say that this length is 2. Like the same. For this point, I am assigning a number 0, and for this point, I am assigning a number root 2, which means that this length is root 2, which is same as this one. Now let us examine this root 2. Now is root 2 a rational number? Think of what are the definition. What is the definition for a rational number, or what are the conditions for a number to become a rational number? The first condition is it should be in p by q form. Is root 2 in p by q form? Of course it is. You can write by 1 and you can say it is in p by q form. That is the first condition. So first condition is satisfied. Now q not equal to 0. That is the second condition. So is q not equal to 0? Yes, it is not equal to 0. Second condition is also being satisfied. What is the third condition? P and q should be integers. Are p and q integers? Q is an integer. Is p an integer? Of course not. So third condition is not satisfied, and we can say that root 2 is not a rational number. Now root 2 is not a rational number. Now let me resume the discussion that which I have suspended in the previous time. So in the previous discussion, we made a conclusion that probable conclusion that every point on the number line can be assigned a rational number. But here we have a point on the number line where there is a number which is not a rational number and being assigned to that point. Now this contradicts the statement which I have stated earlier. That is, every point on the line we can assign a rational number. But by this argument we can say that there are points for which the rational numbers cannot be assigned. That is what I can conclude from this. That is, whenever you are given a straight line, though you assign a rational number to each of the points on the straight line, we have some more points on the straight line for which the rational numbers cannot be assigned, which means that we need a separate collection of numbers, or there is an existence of such numbers which are not rational numbers that are to be assigned to those points which are not being assigned by rational numbers. So this leads us to a new collection of numbers called irrational numbers. That is, we have seen numbers other than rational numbers where each point on a straight line can be assigned to. So such kind of numbers which are not rational numbers and which we are assigning to each point on the rational number, each point on the straight line other than the points that are being assigned, we call those numbers as rational numbers. Simply to say that rational numbers are those numbers in fact irrational numbers are those numbers which are not rational, and these are denoted with Q dash or S. So that is the case. Irrational numbers are those numbers which are not rational, and those are denoted with Q dash or S. So by this discussion we come to an understanding that given a straight line, though we may feel that all the points can be assigned to a rational number, still there exist some points to be assigned. That means we are in need of some numbers for which the points can be assigned to. That means there is a collection, there is a new collection of numbers that we need in order to assign those points which are left over on the number line, which you are not able to see. However, by the true argument we can conclude that there exist some points where rational numbers cannot be assigned to, and one such point is this, where this point cannot be assigned to any rational number. For suppose say this point is assigned to a rational number, then this should be equivalent to a rational number, but that is not a rational number, therefore that point is not being assigned to a rational number but to another number which is not rational. Now such numbers we are calling it as irrational numbers. That is, the numbers which are not rational numbers, we call them as irrational numbers, and root 2 is one simplest example of a rational number. Now how about pi, which we have discussed in a chapter called circles in the previous class, or in the previous class, that is class 8. Now pi is 3.14159 and it keeps moving. Now what is a rational number? What is the decimal expansion of a rational number? It should be either a terminating decimal or a non-terminating repeating decimal, but it is neither a terminating decimal nor a non-terminating repeating decimal. Therefore this is not a rational number, hence it is called an irrational number. So by this I can also say that every non-terminating, non-repeating decimal is an irrational number. I repeat it again. Every non-terminating, non-repeating decimal is an irrational number. That is 1.23572 so on. Now here this is a repeating decimal, and in fact this is a non-terminating decimal, and none of the digits are repeating continuously. Therefore this is not a rational number. Any number which is not a rational number is an irrational number. Therefore that is an irrational number. We have already discussed types of decimals. There are three types. One is terminating, next non-terminating repeating, non-terminating non-repeating. So the first two cases comes under the category of a rational number, whereas the last case is the case of an irrational number. So that is all about irrational number. That is a number which is not a rational, we call it as irrational number. And today what we have discussed is that there are numbers other than rational numbers, and we have gone through using a number line. That is, by the number line we are able to identify some points where those points can be assigned to numbers other than rational numbers. One such case in point is root 2. Now root 2 is a number which is not a rational number, but it is assigned to a point on the number line or a point on the straight line. So which means that there are points on the straight line for which the rational numbers cannot be assigned, which means that there should be, or there is an existence of a new collection of numbers which can be assigned to those points on the number line that the rational numbers are not being assigned to. So that is all about the collection of rational numbers, irrational numbers, and how we have come to know that there is a new collection called irrational numbers. Now if I put together the collection of rational numbers and irrational numbers, we call such collection as a real number collection. That is, we have already discussed what is a rational number. Any number which is of the form p by q, q not equal to 0, p and q are integers is called a rational number. And the numbers which are not rational, we are calling them as irrational numbers. And if you join both rational and irrational numbers, the new collection of numbers which we are going to arrive at, we are calling them as real numbers, and real numbers are denoted with capital R. That is, real numbers are the combination of rational numbers and irrational numbers. Now let us diagrammatize all the collection of numbers which we have learned till now. So we have learned natural numbers at the outset, followed by whole numbers, integers, rational numbers. Now we have learned about irrational numbers. Now we diagrammatize the relationship. We already know that natural numbers are contained in whole numbers. So these are your natural numbers and they are in whole numbers, and whole numbers are contained in integers, and all these integers, they are contained in rational numbers. Now this is already what we have discussed at the outset of the session. Now we have also discussed that the numbers which are not rationals, they are called irrational. Therefore these are all the rational numbers. The numbers which are not rational. So says this is the collection of numbers which are not rational. Let us denote with Q dash, or you can also say it as S. Now these are all your rational numbers, these are all your irrational numbers. Now collection of these rationals and irrationals, we call them as real numbers. That is, if you put this collection together, we call them as real numbers. That is, the collection of rational numbers and irrational numbers, we call them as real numbers, and we denote real numbers with capital R. And capital R is, this R is something different from the normal R. Now this is called your blackboard R, which we write this way. Now this is not what we are using it. So this is all about the relationship. Now you can identify the relationship over here. Now Q dash. Now suppose say I have got a relation like this. Tell me whether it is true or not. All rational numbers are irrational numbers. Is it correct? Are all rational numbers irrational numbers? There is no relation at all. So that is an incorrect statement. And the other way around is also incorrect. That is, all irrational numbers are not rational numbers. They don't have any connectivity. So that is an incorrect statement. Likewise, you can formulate or establish relationship between different kinds of collection of numbers. Let us also see some of the examples of irrational numbers so that you will have a bit of clarity on that. Now say, is root 3 an irrational number? Is root 3 irrational number? Yes or no? Of course no. Root 3, in fact root 3 is an irrational number. It is not a rational number, because root 3, though you can write it as root 3 by 1, root 3 is not an integer, therefore it is not a rational number. That is an irrational number. Root 4, square root 4, square root 4 is 2. So 2 you can write it as 2 by 1. 2 is an integer, 1 is an integer, p by q form, therefore it is a rational number. So it is not always like whenever you have a square root number or a cube root number, it is not always like it is an irrational number, because there might be cases like say square root, if suppose you have square root 16, square root 16 you can extract the square root, which is equivalent to 4, and 4 you can write it as 4 by 1, therefore that becomes a rational number. So you have to take care of what kind of number are we looking at. Now if this is a perfect square, then that cannot be an irrational number. If that is not a perfect square, for example square root 5, 5 is not a perfect square, therefore root 5 is not an integer. Therefore that comes another category of an irrational number. For suppose cube root 7, you cannot extract the cube root, therefore that is an irrational number. Suppose say cube root 8. So cube root 8 you can extract it. You can extract the cube root, which is equivalent to 2. Therefore this is a rational number, whereas this is not an irrational number. So you have to check out whether you can extract it or not, or whether you are arriving at an integer and that can be written in the form of p by q. So that is the way to go about. So today I will be posting a worksheet on the same. Go through it. The entire worksheet depends upon the discussion which we have made, and we will be discussing that worksheet in the next class. Thank you.